When we hark back to the days of 1966 and watch how England played, the dynamic is remarkably different from today's game. Whilst back then, the mantra was on outscoring your opponent, there was a far less regard for defensive side of the game. During the 1970s through to 2000, the formation in British football at least was normally focused around two strikers, whether that was Keegan and Tuchak, Shearer and Sutton, Cole and York, or Heskey and Owen. However, nowadays if you look at how the top teams set themselves up, it is normally with one striker like Firmino for Liverpool, Aguero for Manchester City, or Rashford for Manchester United. The 4-4-2 most commonly used formation consists of 4 defenders, 4 midfielders, and 2 strikers. It is simple with clear player role. It provides a basic foundation of defensive depth and ability to attack in numbers. On defense, the 4 fullbacks and 4 midfielders can put 8 men in front of the opposition and cover the entire width of the field. If the defense pushes up high with the midfield, the opposition can be forced to stay within its own half. On offense, there are always options out wide and a strong presence up front to provide attacking options through crosses or long balls to the wings. The 2 strikers link up in the play with the midfield players and the rest of the team. It is important that these players spread the defense apart to create spaces for midfield players and fullbacks joining in the attack. These 2 forwards may play far up the field or can drop a little deeper depending on the need. In this regard, the forwards in the 4-4-2 formation are often interchangeable with the midfield players. This causes confusion for the opposing defense and can help open up scoring opportunities. In recent years, teams have transitioned away from using the 4-4-2 formation and have opted other formations instead. If we look, so we can see that predictability and rigidity are typically the problems associated with 4-4-2 formation, as it puts enormous pressure on the center midfielders to both attack and defend constantly. Having just 2 players in the center midfield can make keeping the ball difficult against teams playing a 3-man midfield. The downside of the 4-4-2 formation is that its rigid positions, which can lead to a side being swamped by more flexible opponents. The obvious potential weakness is that by playing with 2 strikers you can be outnumbered in the midfield. The strength of the formation comes from the overlapping outside backs, adding numbers to attack and quickly converting the 4-4-2 formation into 2-4-4 or even 2-2-6. They will run the most on the team, providing support to attack and then running back to defend. Perfected during the golden age of English football, the 4-4-2 formation is the perfect counter-attacking formation, as it has the potential for an intensive press and easy transition after the ball is won. The greatest weakness of the 4-4-2 is the lack of control over the game, except in exceptional cases. Modern football adopted spectacularly to the 4-4-2 by doing something simple, playing a 3-man midfield. The 4-4-2 by default makes use of 2 center midfielders who almost always cannot take control of the midfield area from a 3-man midfielders. The players in the 4-4-2 formation are usually more hardworking. The wide midfielders are always required to help out in defense, and because of that, the decline in stamina may be noticed as the game wears down. Nowadays, football largely a result of growing appreciation and imitation of Spanish, Brazilian and Dutch football, which is far more possession-oriented. Cruyff and Pep Guardiola at Football Club Barcelona and Manchester United are prime examples of this systematic arrangement shift towards possession-based play, whereby thinking is, if we have the ball, the opposition can't score. 4-4-2 is traditional formation of English game, optimized by Sir Alex Ferguson, treble-winning Manchester United side of 1998 and 1999. With a solid goalkeeper, defense and centre mid of Paul Scholes and Roy Keane, Ferguson was able to play 2 out-and-out wingers in Ryan Giggs and David Beckham and 2 out-and-out strikers in Andy Cole and Dwight York. Ferguson stuck with the formation that granted him so much success in his 26 years tenure, until his final few years as Manchester United manager when he added an extra man to midfield to face too difficult opposition such as his lineup for 2019 Champions League against Pep Guardiola's Barcelona. Arsenal's Invincibles side of 2003 and 2004 is another example of a team who achieved great success using 4-4-2 formation. Again, a solid spin to a team meant Arsene Wenger could play Robert Pires and Freddie Ljungberg on the wings with Dennis Bergkamp and Thierry Henry up front. But things are not always the same, and once this core began to disintegrate, Wenger tended to prefer 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 in his later years as Arsenal manager. Most of the Premier League teams until the arrival of Jose Mourinho and Didier Drogba played two strikers up front in 2004. Drogba had the ability to score, hold the ball and set up with his teammates such as Frank Lampard, who became a world-class goal-scoring midfielder. Playing Drogba up front with himself gives Mourinho the idea to create a new role for down midfielder. This role was brilliantly executed by Claude Makélélé because of his anticipation, tackling and positional sense, which made him able to break up attacks, adding an additional protective layer. Other Premier League teams had to struggle with this unprecedented formation, and Chelsea ranked up 95 points, a Premier League record. Until last season, whenever Chelsea took the lead, the concept was that they will win just because of their sturdy defense. From Pep Guardiola's side, Manchester City's Fernandinho has done a great job replicating Makelélé's role. Guardiola adjusted Manchester City's formation so that he could play David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne alongside Fernandinho in three-man midfield. In almost every game, City dominated possession and broke Chelsea's record as they crossed 100-point mark. On striker like Aguero and playmakers like Kevin De Bruyne and David Silva playing three-man center midfield, four possession-based teams such as Pep Guardiola's City makes a perfect sense. All the best teams in the world at the moment like Manchester City, Football Club Barcelona, Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich all operate with a three-man midfield. But this is not to say that all Premier League teams should follow suit. The rigid formation 4-4-2 is not dead in water, as shown by Leicester's against the odd Premier League winning side in 2015 and 16. N'Golo Kante and Danny Drinkwater played their skin all season to protect their defense while facing up to three midfielders in most games. However, during a time when so much emphasis is placed on defending and possession, in 4-4-2 formation playing with two solid banks of four and two up front is bold decision and puts a lot of pressure on the midfield, which is why a formation is rarely utilized in modern English and world football.